If I ask you how strong you are, you would probably tell me how much you can bench press or how many pull-ups you can do. But if I ask you to measure your cardiorespiratory fitness, you might not know. Maybe you know your running time, but that's more about the speed, not what's happening inside your body. That's why we use VO2 Max, the amount of oxygen your body can use per minute. It's one of the best indicators of your long-term health, and in this video, I will explain how to measure your VO2 Max with or without technology and how to improve it using simple science-based methods anyone can follow. If you're new here, my name is Kamran. I'm a sports scientist doctor based in Berlin. So first thing first, what is VO2 Max? VO2 max is the maximum amount of oxygen your body can take during an intense activity. This is the simple explanation of the VO2 max. In this chart, you can see the VO2 max for women and men. You can see your age and you can find where you are right now if you know your VO2 max. Also, VO2 max is one of the strongest predictor of longevity, even more powerful than common risk factors like high blood pressure, smoking, or diabetes. The better your VO2 max, the more capable your heart, lungs, and muscles are at handling stress and daily life. But when you click on this video, probably you already know about the VO2 max. So let's get a bit practical and talk about how we can measure it and how we can improve it. So let's start from the least accurate to most accurate way to test our VO2 max. The easiest way to measure your VO2 max is using a step test. We have a lot of different step tests, and in general the concept is that you're going to use a bench and you're going to step up and down in that bench for a certain period of time, and then you will measure your heart rate during the recovery, and then you use that in the formula to get your VO2 max. As I said, it's not super accurate, but it is the easiest way that you can measure your VO2 max. For example, Queen College step test. You step up and down on a 16.2 inch or 41 centimeter bench for 3 minutes at a specific stepping rate. For men, it's 24 steps per minute, for women 22 steps per minute. And then you will sit down immediately on a cord and you will measure your heart rate in 15 seconds, and then you should multiply it to 4 to get your heart rate per minute. And then you can use these two formulas to measure your heart rates. Is it accurate? Not really, but it's super easy to get you some number for the start. The second one is a walk test. Walk 1 mile as fast as possible, record your finishing time and your heart rate, and then use the formula to estimate your VO2 max. It's important to make sure that you're walking as fast as possible and not running. The next one, which is a bit more accurate, is a Cooper test. It's super popular. In Cooper test, you have to run for 12 minutes as far as you can. Then you will measure the distance you covered and you will use the formula to measure your VO2 max. This way is way more accurate compared to the last two versions. The fourth way to measure your VO2 max is using smartwatches and fitness trackers. Devices like Garmin, Apple Watch, and Polar use some data to measure your VO2 max, such as your heart rate, pace, power output, workout history, and other data like age, weight, gender. They are not super accurate compared to the other tests that I have talked about, but they have one advantage that they don't have. These devices can calibrate according to your data for a long period of time. For example, the Apple Watch or Whoop, you're wearing for 10 months, 12 months, a long period of time. So the device can calibrate to your own specific data, and the more data the device has, the more accurate it can estimate your VO2 max. But there is something that I have read in Reddit, that there are lots of people talking about the inaccuracy of the devices, and there was a guy who compared them and they realized that they are quite accurate. But the problem is, for the VO2 max specifically, you need to do a lot of cardio outside, so the GPS of the devices can track your movement and your distance. So some people reported that when they do high intensity exercises with the rapid movement and rapid rest, the device cannot calculate the VO2 max correctly. So what they need to do is that to have this steady pace exercises like zone 2 cardio at least once a week to make sure that they can get good data from these devices. Just take the result from the devices with a pinch of salt. The next test, which is a bit more accurate than the devices, is submaximal test on treadmill or bike. Controlled treadmill or cycle tests with progressive speed increases can predict your VO2 max based on your heart rate response. This is a progressive test you can do at home or in a gym using heart rate response. You should start with 3 miles per hour with the zero incline level. Every 3 minutes, you have to increase either the speed by half a mile or incline by 2 to 3%. You should record your heart rate at each stage. It's a bit difficult, but it's possible. Then continue until you reach 85% of your max heart rate. Your max heart rate is 220 minus your age, so 85% of that. Based on the relationship between the heart rate, the workload, and your age, predicted max heart rate, you can calculate your VO2 max. There is a lot of formula that you can use to calculate VO2 max in this test. I will put a few of them in description for your reference so you can use it and measure your VO2 max. And the last one is measuring your VO2 max in a lab, which is the most accurate way to measuring your VO2 max. It's a bit expensive because either you have to pay for it or find someone who do the test in university or clinics and do it there, but this is the most accurate way to measure your VO2 max. So in this test, either you cycle or you run on a treadmill and you will have a face mask which is measuring your real-time oxygen consumption and carbon dioxide output until exhaustion. So the examiner increases the intensity of the exercise every 1 to 3 minutes until exhaustion. There's a few ways to do that. There is a Bruce protocol and RAM protocol. So in this test, VO2 max directly measured based on how much oxygen you consume per minute at your peak effort. For your information, in the Bruce protocol, at each stage, both the speed and incline increase significantly. For example, in stage 1, the speed is 1.7 miles per hour at 10% incline, and then in stage 2 is 2.5 miles per hour at 12% incline. So they increase the speed and incline every 3 minutes. But in the RAM protocol, they increase it with the smaller steps, but every 30 seconds. So a lot of people, they believe that the RAM protocol is way more accurate than the Bruce protocol, but both of them, they're really good. I prefer RAM control because it's way more easier to do it and you can reach the result faster. So I like the RAM protocol, but both of them are fine. So now that you understand how to measure it, let's talk about how to improve our VO2 max. Before we talk about how you can improve it, there is 2 basic things that you need to understand before we move on. When you improve your VO2 max, 2 big changes happen to your body. The first thing that changes is your heart and lungs. Your heart gets stronger and can pump more blood with each beat. You get more blood in your body, which means more oxygen gets carried to your muscles. And the second thing is your muscles. Tiny blood vessels called capillaries grow inside your muscles and get bigger. Think of capillaries like little roads that bring oxygen directly to your muscles. Your muscles also get better at using oxygens because they make more special structure called mitochondria. Think of mitochondria as little engine that use oxygen to create energy. So the first way you can increase your VO2 max is by doing high intensity interval exercises. This is the most effective way to increase your VO2 max. The study shows that by doing high intensity interval training, you can increase your VO2 max by 5.5%, which is amazing. But how we can do that? One of the easiest way to increase your VO2 max is 4x4 Norwegian run, which is really good and interesting. What you need to do is that you can use treadmill, you can use a bike, you can run outside, whatever you want. But what you need to do is that for 4 minutes, you're gonna push yourself and do that activity, let's say running. You will do that running for 4 minutes, around 85 to 95% of your max heart rate, and then you will rest for 4 minutes. Again, you will do that 4 minutes running and then you will rest another 4 minutes. You will do this 4 rounds, and after the 4 rounds you're done. Easy. Yes, it looks really easy, but I have done it multiple times. Really fun, but the last one is going to be really hard. But the problem with this protocol is that you have to be able to understand what is your 85 to 95%, or you have to have a heart rate monitor all the time to see the numbers to make sure that you are in the right track. Sometimes it's really difficult. Some people start that 4 minutes really hard, then they cannot continue. So that is important to understand what is your 80 or 90% heart rate that you want to be in that 4 minutes. For some beginners, I prefer not to start with high intensity exercises, or if you have been active for a while now and you want to start with high intensity exercises, or let's say running, you can use the same ratio with the shorter period of time, which means that instead of doing 4 minutes active, 4 minutes resting, you can do it 1 minute and 1 minute, or 30-second active, 30-second rest. That can help you to understand what is your 80 or 90% heart rate, and then from there you can build up and do 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and 4 minutes after that. But that's one of the easiest way to increase your VO2 max. But it's really important to have a good foundation before starting doing high intensity exercises. So the second way to increase your VO2 max is by doing zone 2 training. But there's a huge debate here. A lot of people say that zone 2 training is not the only way that you can do VO2 max. Some people, they believe that the zone 2 training is not effective. And some people like Dr. Peter Attia, they say that this is the best way you can increase your VO2 max. Talking about Dr. Attia, he has a good explanation about the VO2 max, and he's talking about a pyramid, and the top of the pyramid is your VO2 max. And if you want to increase the height of the pyramid, you have to make sure you have a good foundation, which is the bottom of this pyramid. The bigger this bottom is, the easier for you is to increase the VO2 max, which I believe is correct. But it's really important to understand what is that zone 2 base, how much you need to push yourself. Because zone 2, we can say that it's a range of heart rate from 130 to 150 for some people, depends on your max heart rate. Some people, they said that it's around 65 to 75% of your max heart rate, which is correct, but it's not accurate. So finding the right zone 2 is quite hard. That's why I highly recommend, if you want to increase your VO2 max, focus 70%, 80% of your training to the steady pace training. For example, if you go to gym, you want to do cardio, do 30 minutes, 45 minutes training, 1 hour training, but with the steady pace. You don't want to increase and decrease a lot. And then 20-30% of your training should be high intensity training. That is the best way to increase VO2 max, in my opinion. So if you're a beginner, your training should be something like 2 times a week, zone 2 training, let's say, or low steady pace training, to just make sure that your body getting comfortable with activity for a longer period of time. For example, your heart is pumping in that time, your heart is getting stronger through that, your lungs getting stronger. So you can do an activity for 60 minutes, 2 times a week or 3 times a week. Then when you can do that, I highly recommend to add a high intensity training after you can do 2 or 3 times a steady pace training throughout the week. Then you will add 1 high intensity training for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, each week, to make sure that you can increase the strength of your heart really good. Then when you improve, or if you are in the intermediate level, you can increase that steady pace to 90 minutes a week, 2 to 3 times, or increase the frequency of the training throughout the week, like 4 times a week with like 60 minutes or 45 minutes, and then having that 1 minute, but increase the ratio or the time that you are doing high intensity training. If you are a beginner, you should do like 30-second or 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute active, 1 minute rest. But if you are intermediate, you can increase it to 2 minutes or 3 minutes active, 3 minutes rest. But at the end, it's really important. Any type of exercise can help you to have a better health, to have a better VO2 max. Even if you are not able to run or do high intensity exercises, even walking for you could be useful. So do not stick to this number and say, oh, I have to do zone 2, I have to do zone 5, I have to do this or that to get better. Any type of activity can help you. These are the studies that have been done. If you're capable of doing this type of training or following a schedule, perfect, do that. But if you can't do it, whatever activity you do, that would be great for your heart and your health. So do not think just about the number, just think and look for the future and try to get better every single day. Please let me know in the comment if you have done any VO2 Max exercises. I really want to know about your experience. Thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.